and she also is running her company. She's also an entrepreneur, running the company called Virtual.ai. So Bo is expert in the domain of safety, safe AI, and secure AI. And relate.
Thank you everyone. Thanks for the great introduction. And it's a great honor to share some of our research in this area about safe and safety verification for autonomous driving and in general for AI. So I'm Bo, and I'm also currently running a company called Virtual AI to provide safe and secure solutions for enterprises. So if you're interested, happy to discuss more. So first of all, let me jump right in. And as we all know, that the AI machine learning technologies have brought us a lot of convenience and benefits, including, of course, our topic today, autonomous driving and like foundation models and the multimodal models, etc. But as we all know, we also have seen a lot of like consequences, like different crashes, and for foundation models, there are hallucinations and toxicity, content, etc., etc. And the multimodal domain actually has even lead to misarrest. So this has caused us a lot of concerns and showing that actually without careful deploying these technologies for different like domains, including safety critical domains such as autonomous driving, it will be very like dangerous, and we need to be aware of it and consider how to address it. And in the previous talks, we have a lot of great examples about how to analyze safety and how to assess like risks for different scenarios. And here in my talk, I want to discuss a little bit detailed solutions, actually one solution, and could hopefully can inspire more interesting discussion. So first of all, as we all know that because of such safety and security concerns, there are a lot of AI regulations coming into the way, including the executive order and including from Europe, like the EU AI Act, GDPR, etc., to protect the safety and secure usage of AI tools in general. Now with this, especially for autonomous driving itself, this domain, which is safety critical, and we can see that actually it's still very possible to generate a lot of, say, corner cases and safety critical scenarios. So we have seen a lot of amazing real-world scenarios just now. And here I want to show one example just to consistently or continue with the previous subject about how easy and how likely that we can generate those safety critical scenarios for driving. For example, very interesting, we build a pipeline like this, in the sense that, say, we take advantage of current foundation models, which we can prompt model in the sense, say, okay, give me some safety critical scenario under certain constraints, right? Based on whatever constraints and the concrete conditions you give, the model can actually generate those constraint descriptions or safety critical descriptions, and then very interesting in this work, actually it's in SML this year, and it will be able to find the nearest neighbor of such conditions and then correspondingly find the actual action itself. And then we can leverage, for example, domain-specific languages or whatever like functions that we can implement, so we can directly translate from the NLP safety critical scenario description towards the real action generation in the simulation environment. For example, on the right-hand side, it's the color simulation, so that you can actually now easy to control the safety critical scenario generation with your languages and with some inspirations, even from the brainstorming of, say, foundation models. So we can see in this, we'll be able to generate a lot of safety critical scenarios, and like basically, it's on one hand, it's good as training data. On the other hand, it's showing that it's actually a lot of challenging corner cases could happen in the real world. We need to be aware. So here there are some quick examples. For example, if we just give a description on the right-hand side, say evil vehicle is driving in a straight road, and then there is a pedestrian in front, and it will follow the instructions and will be able to control the interactions of the object, including the cars and the pedestrians, and generate the safety critical scenario like that. And similarly, for the like another example, we can just generate detailed description in terms of how the interactions of different vehicles go with each other, and then the pipeline basically with the domain-specific languages composed with the simulation environment itself will be able to give you the corresponding scenario and which can be translated into real-world scenario as well. And yeah, similarly, just a little bit more examples. So this shows that no matter it's in different environment or different scenario descriptions, it's very possible to generate very challenging scenarios in practice, which is a concern and also provide certain capabilities of data augmentation and analysis. So with all these examples, including some very nice real-world examples we just seen from the previous two great talks, one question we want to think about is, indeed, now we know attack is very easy. Like my job over the past 15 years is just to attack every AI system, including autonomous driving, including different like AI component or systems. Attack is pretty easy, I would say. But then the question is how we can ensure the safety and the security and the safeguard the AI systems such as autonomous driving against those challenging scenarios or challenging attacks, etc. Right? So here, there are many ways we can do it, and actually many components we need to do. But in this talk, I want to emphasize one component which I believe we should share the similar principle, but we are still not sure how to do it yet, which is we know as human driver is relatively safer, right, than autonomous driving to some extent. And the reason is we know we can obey the traffic rules, we have domain knowledge, we have common sense knowledge, etc., at least at this stage, so that we can follow those rules and ensure that the reasoning process goes well, rather than only based on purely data-driven models, either it's end-to-end or pipeline-based, so that we can ensure, as a human, we can ensure some safety levels. But for, say, machine learning-driven based autonomous driving, how we can ensure such knowledge rules and safety rules explicitly into the model? That's always the challenge, right? We can always say, construct more data following the knowledge rules, and then use those data to train the model again and again and fine-tune it, so that hopefully they can follow the rules that we want them to follow, but we can never verify that, or we can never ensure that, right? So is there a more principled way we can do that to explicitly inject the knowledge? So that's the main thing I want to discuss today and provide a small angle on it, but I believe there are a lot of more things towards this principle. So first of all, on a very high level, right? So here, as just a simple example of, say, if we have an autonomous driving vehicle, and the input taken is that, say, a video or multimodal as input, right? And if, say, we use a, say, foundation model to do the prediction currently as a fashion, this is just an example. Here, with the context, you have input like videos, and you can extract context information from it, such as speed, like accelerator, cost, etc. And for example, we can ask the question to the model, say, what should be the action for the next step, right? And why is that, to give a reason. And the model will give you something, and may or may not be correct, right? And then based on that, you can do a low-level prediction for the action itself. So the question here is that, how can we ensure this, for example, a unified foundation model-based driving system, for example, is as safe as possible, which can ensure them to follow some real-world safety rules if we have them, right? So on a very high level, we can see basically with this high-level action prediction, our goal, or in the ideal world, what we hope is that, first of all, we can ensure the model to leverage the similar experience, right? Like past other safe driving experience or similar historical driving trajectories, so we can leverage those experience in a data-driven fashion, like probabilistic world, so that we can use those as, say, probabilistic knowledge. And the other thing is we do hope we can provide some safety verification. And this type of safety verification need to be post-time, because we need to make prediction, and then we can verify whether the prediction will be safe or not, right? And in this case, for example, based on this trajectory, when we make a low-level prediction, we can also use or leverage those verification knowledge or conclusion to enhance our loss function and get a final accurate prediction or basically the action prediction itself, right? So this is the ideal world that hopefully we can leverage experience, we can leverage real-world safety knowledge, and leverage all these things to make the final safe prediction with verification guarantees. But the main question is, as we just discussed, how can we explicitly integrate those knowledge? We know it is important and it is a good principle, but what's the trajectory to do that, right? I believe there are several ways, and we have been exploring one way for a long time for autonomous driving and other machine learning systems and et cetera, et cetera. And consistently, we find this is a relatively generic approach and which is more or less helpful. So I think we can open the discussion after it. So first of all, I want to introduce, for example, here is a simple example of prediction with interactive answering. So basically here, for example, human give you the scenarios which can be extracted from video, and it can give video as a multi-model input as well. And then you can ask the model to do the prediction for the next action, etc. And here what we can see is that, first of all, of course, we can use certain multimodal RAG systems to extract similar driving behaviors or experience or video sectors before, and then use those as in-context information to enforce the model, right? So this part has been very successful, shown by several work, and I think that's great. But the main limitation for this is that we still cannot ensure the context we injected will definitely be used, right? And the question here is how we can explicitly enforce that. And let's come to the second possibility way, which is based on, say, a RAG solution. And then here, can we inject our knowledge into certain symbolic models that we know it will make logical reasoning process, rather than a purely data-driven model. No matter it's a deep neural network or foundation models or whatever models we have now, they are all purely data-driven models, right? And those data-driven models could have the limitations of not following the knowledge and have hallucination, etc. So therefore, we are thinking, can we inject the knowledge rules into a symbolic, say, probabilistic graphical models, and then we use this such model to enforce the later predictions. And here, in this simple example, you can see, based on the input context, the model, for example, give you an answer, say, the next action should be moved forward. But then with the verification knowledge, it will find that some safety rules are violated, which we can give a more detailed example later. And in this case, the model will automatically give a feedback and update, based on some training process of the reasoning, symbolic reasoning framework, and then we'll correct the model, say you should give a stop action rather than moving forward action, right? So the idea on the high level on this slide is that, can we do a post-stage safety verifications through knowledge rules by doing real reasoning, rather than just using a purely data-driven model to fit the distribution, which we know in the high-dimensional space we will never have enough data to fit the whole space and ensure the safety of the model, right? So this is on the high level how we hope to leverage the, say, probabilistic graphical model to embed knowledge and then help the verification for the action prediction. So based on this high-level framework, more accurate, more detailed design of this framework is that, first of all, as we know, the goal here is to ensure the action prediction will strictly follow some traffic rules. And the second is, the obstacle is that we don't know how to explicitly do that. And as we mentioned, we will be able to use probabilistic graphical model to embed the rules. And concretely, how to do that? For example, given a video frame or clip, we can construct some predicates and formula. So the predicates are some predictions. You can imagine we can use whatever model to extract it. We can use deep neural networks, we can use foundation models to extract whether there is a solid line, or whether there's a red line, and whether there's a solid yellow light, etc., etc. So basically, we can extract a lot of safety knowledge, and the norm in the safety knowledge will be the predicate part. And you can extract those and ask the model to predict those predicates. And based on those predicates, then you will be able to have the knowledge pretty easily. Based on like a simple practice is that what we do is we go through the California safe driver book, and then you can extract all the knowledge rules mapped as first order logics, and then you can extract all the component as your predicate, and then extract it, like map your knowledge rule into first order logic rule. For example, here, if you see a solid red light, you should either decelerate or you should stop, and you definitely should not accelerate. So those at least should be the conditions, and if you see acceleration after this solid light, there will be a violation, and you should definitely follow it. So in this way, it will be deterministically enforce the safety rules rather than probabilistically fit the distribution. So that's the fundamental idea and the principle behind it. So for example, just as a simple example, we can use, say, Markov logic net to implement this framework, but we can always use other probabilistic graphical models. This is just a very simple example that here, say, we have different predicates. They can be predicted by different model components. And in this way, you can learn the weights for the different formula, which actually is the rules, so that because some rule in practice is more easily to be violated and less easily violated, so that they will have different ways, so that it will have different priorities to check violation. And then you have some joint distribution to train these weights. And I think this is quite aligned with one principle that we mentioned before in the previous talk, like the redundancy. So I quite agree with that. For example, here, basically different models predicting different predicates is kind of types of redundancy in terms of you break one task down into a different subtasks, and then you use those subtasks to again align and enforce the overall task itself. Therefore, you will be able to achieve knowledge rules with such task breakdown and redundancy. So with this simple strategy, with simple network, like Markov logic networks, or you can use other graphical models as well. And the reason I mention this is that we know to some extent the graphical model could be relatively slower than a simple data fitting model, but not necessarily. If we have a billion parameter foundation model, it's not necessarily slower than a graphical model, I would say. But the point is that actually we don't need a lot of knowledge to infer the safety. I think that's the beauty of this framework. So basically the idea is that if you have the safety knowledge, those safety knowledge rule is not for inference, meaning that during inference, you are not using those safety knowledge rules. They are only used during post-safety violation checking or verification. It means, first of all, it won't hurt your generalization performance, and it will not take your time in terms of the inference time. Second of all, you don't need the whole universe complete safety knowledge rules, because we know that the drawback of traditional symbolic reasoning is that we cannot have the whole rule, complete rule in real world, right? But in this case, since the functionality or the goal of the rule is only to use for safety violation, so that even though you don't have the complete rule, it's fine. It means that you miss some safety checking, but at least it will improve your safety levels, and that will give you the verification level. And we can just train it with more advanced technology like variational inference itself, so that we can make the training process very scalable. So in this case, we can see here, based on our goal, which we want to explicitly leverage knowledge for LM or foundation models, and a real-world scenario is that we go through the California driver book, and then we extract around 60 safety knowledges, and then we use these safety knowledge rules to map to the predicates and the first order logic rules as we mentioned. And in this way, for example, like if you have a double yellow line, you should, if you pass it, and then it definitely is a violation of such safety rules. So basically, it will be simple rule that human know we should not violate, but we will be able to enforce the model that they will never violate it with deterministic guarantee rather than probabilistic fitting, which is hard for us to verify in practice. And here is just some example. Like there are a lot of predicates and the condition predicates, and then there are some safety rules like red light or yellow light, etc. So that we can map all this into different types of first order logic rules, or if you have higher order logic rule, it also works. And in this case, we can see in this example, again, if human ask, say, what should be the action of the evil vehicle next, and if the model say, okay, you should move forward, and then you will be able to ping the model and then extract the predicates within this current scenario of the video frame, and then you have the weight trained, and then you will be able to evaluate, say, whether the current prediction of the action actually will violate the knowledge rules that has been integrated into the graphical logic models. And in this way, we'll see the model will verify the violation and correct the action prediction automatically with a deterministic guarantee. So in this way, very interestingly, we actually look at some statistics. So here is on the BDD driving data set, and then the y-axis shows different actions, and see what types of action is easier to be correct or easier make wrong predictions. And also very clearly or intuitively, we can see like the action like keep, which means keep still your action, is very likely to be misled, because it's just the action happens more often, I think. And we can see with the such probabilistic graphical model injection for the knowledge enforcement, it can compare with all the SOTA baselines. It can improve almost 10% in terms of the prediction, action prediction. Use only a subset of the safety knowledge. So if you have more safety knowledge, the safety will further improve. So with this, it's very interesting, and we can see two examples quickly. And one is here, as we said. From here, you can see the ground truth is that the car should stop. And the original prediction, because this scenario is quite confusing, and it says the car could pass the right-hand side and go through, continue the journey. But here, because there is like very vague solid yellow line, so that actually the model will be able to hear a subset of another component of the system, actually, a separate model, actually identify those solid yellow line, and then map it to the knowledge and show that if there is a yellow line, you should not pass it even the right path. And then with such knowledge violation, the action itself is corrected as the stop rather than go through the right-hand side. So basically, this scenario is very interesting that even for human, the red line is not that explicit, and therefore with a particular model to identify that component is very helpful, rather than with end-to-end, because with end-to-end, sometimes the model will easily miss the like minor or nuanced information in this scenario, because it needs to do a lot of things at once. Another example is relatively simple in the sense that here is a red line, but the red line is not in the middle, so it's not very easy to be detected in the earlier frames, as you can see. And therefore, the original prediction is that it should turn left before it sees the red line. But then with knowledge and the single separate component itself, the model actually identify the red light and also identify the scenarios currently, and it finds that the violation of the rule with the red light for stop, which is a very direct knowledge rule, and then it will enforce the model to update the prediction actions and then add to stop. So yeah, so with that, I will to quickly just to show that this is one way to inject the knowledge in an explicit way to ensure the safety and the safety verification. And I believe there are other ways as well, and hopefully that can lead to the final like safe driving scenarios. Because I personally believe it will only rely on purely data-driven models. We will not be able to have the final safety verification eventually, and we need some paradigm shift in terms of how to explicitly integrate knowledge so that the model can at least do some reasoning process that can be enforced or verified. And I skipped some details and mainly emphasize the knowledge integration and the reasoning part due to the time limitation. But on the high level, if we integrate everything together, including the knowledge integration and the RAG for multi-model and the loss function design, etc., then you can have quite significant improvement for the high-level action prediction and the low-level action prediction itself. Yeah, with that, I'll thank everyone, and we'll have some benchmarks for autonomous driving and also like a safe driving scenario, etc. And happy to discuss more.